Today, we're taking a sledgehammer to one of the most pervasive and poisonous lies of the modern world, the definition of wealth. We're going to deconstruct the myth that you are constantly sold, the myth that keeps you on a hamster wheel of striving, earning, and spending, only to feel like you're still falling behind. Our guide for this demolition job is the Roman Stoic philosopher Seneca, a man who was, ironically, one of the wealthiest people in the Roman Empire. He had the corner office, the villas, the political power. He saw the game of wealth from the inside, and he came to a radical conclusion. Almost everyone, especially the rich, has it completely backwards. Let's talk about a casual lifestyle. It's a quiet, insidious thing. You get your first real job, and you can finally afford a decent apartment. You feel good, you feel rich for a minute. Then you get a raise. So that decent apartment becomes a nicer one in a better neighborhood. The reliable car becomes a more luxurious one. The occasional dinner out becomes a weekly habit. Your income goes up, but magically, your expenses rise right alongside it. You're making more money than you ever thought you would, but your level of financial stress is exactly the same, or maybe even higher. You're running faster and faster, just to stay in the same place. This is the gilded hamster wheel. We are all caught in this trap. We tell ourselves a story. If I could just get that next raise, that next promotion, that next client, then I'll feel secure. Then I'll feel wealthy. But the then never arrives. The finish line keeps moving. This is because we have fundamentally misunderstood the nature of poverty and wealth. We think they are numbers in a bank account. Seneca tells us this is a catastrophic mistake. He begins by redefining poverty, not as a lack of possessions, but as a sickness of the soul. He wrote that it is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor. This is a gut punch. Let it land. Poverty is not an empty wallet. Poverty is an endless craving. It is the perpetual, gnawing feeling that something is missing. It is the state of, if only. Under this definition, you could be a billionaire and be the poorest man on earth if your entire life is consumed by the desire to become a trillionaire. You could be living in a simple apartment and be extraordinarily wealthy if you are content with what you have. Poverty is a disease of desire. To understand this, we can look to another great ancient philosopher, Epicurus, who created a brilliant system for diagnosing our desires. He sorted them into three categories. First, there are desires that are natural and necessary. These are for things like food when you're hungry, water when you're thirsty, shelter from the cold. These desires are easy to satisfy. Nature, Epicurus said, is not demanding. The person who is only concerned with these desires finds contentment easily. Second, there are desires that are natural but unnecessary. This is the desire not just for food, but for gourmet food. Not just for a drink, but for vintage wine. Not just for a partner, but for the most beautiful person in the room. These desires don't remove a pain, like hunger. They merely vary the pleasure. They are much harder to satisfy and often lead to trouble. Third, and this is the danger zone, there are desires that are vain and empty. These are desires for things like fame, immense wealth, and political power. Epicurus argued that these desires are boundless. They are a black hole. There is no amount of fame that will ever make you feel secure. There is no amount of money that will ever feel like enough. These desires are a trap, a game you are guaranteed to lose, because the finish line is an illusion. Now look at our modern world. Our entire economy, the entire advertising industry, the engine of social media. It is a machine designed to create and inflame our vain and empty desires. It exists to convince you that you are not enough as you are. It exists to make you crave more. It is a factory that mass produces poverty, in the Senecan sense of the word. It trains us, from birth, to be poor, by ensuring we are always craving. This constant craving creates what modern psychologists call a scarcity mindset. It's a lens through which you see the world as a place of not enough money, not enough status, not enough time, not enough likes. Even in a world of unprecedented abundance, this mindset guarantees that you will always feel impoverished. So if poverty is an internal state of craving, then true wealth must also be an internal state. This brings us to Seneca's second quote, which is not a repetition, but the other side of the same golden coin. It is the cure to the disease he just diagnosed. He wrote that wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. This is the Stoic abundance mindset. It's not about what you have. It's about the ratio between what you have and what you want. You can become wealthy in two ways: by increasing your assets or by decreasing your wants. The world screams at you to choose the first way. Seneca calmly points out that the second way is far more reliable, completely within your control, and infinitely more peaceful. When the denominator of your wants approaches zero, your wealth approaches infinity. The Cynic philosopher Diogenes took this idea to its absolute human limit. He lived in a clay pot and owned nothing but a cloak. He was conducting a philosophical experiment. What does a human being actually need? By discovering that he needed almost nothing, he made himself the freest and wealthiest man in all of Athens. When Alexander the Great, the man who had everything, came to him and offered him anything he desired, Diogenes' only reply was, "Stand out of my sunlight." In that moment, who was the rich man? The emperor who still felt the need to conquer the world, or the man who needed nothing that the emperor could give? This wasn't just for radical philosophers. Epictetus's own teacher, Musonius Rufus, taught this as a core practice. He argued for a life of simplicity, eating local food, living without extravagance, not because poverty is fun, but because it is training. It is the act of mastering your desires before they master you. It is the path to true wealth. So how do we practice this? How do we, in our hyper-consumerist world, actually cultivate the wealth of few wants? First, you must practice what we can call the last time meditation. This is a powerful Stoic practice. When you are doing something simple, drinking a cup of coffee, talking to a loved one, watching a sunset, gently remind yourself that there will be a last time you ever do this. You don't know when it will be, but it will come. This isn't meant to be morbid. It is a tool of profound appreciation. It strips away your desire for more or better experiences in the future by infusing the present, simple moment with an almost unbearable sense of value. When you truly appreciate the coffee you have, you stop craving a more expensive one. Second, you must practice deliberate aversion. Our world is a fire hose of manufactured desires. Ads, social media, and store windows are all screaming at you to want more. You must train yourself to push back. When you see an ad for the latest gadget, don't just ignore it. Take a moment to actively think, my life is simpler and better without that complication. That is not wealth. That is a burden. It is a new thing to worry about, to update, to protect. You are training your mind to see new possessions not as a prize, but as a potential trap. Third, you must reframe your gratitude. Many of us practice gratitude, but we often do it in a way that can still feed our desires. A better way is to practice gratitude for sufficiency. Instead of just being grateful for your car, be grateful that your car is sufficient for your needs. You don't need a newer one. Instead of being grateful for your home, be grateful that your home is sufficient to keep you safe and warm. This subtle shift in language is a direct attack on the craving for more. It is the act of declaring, I have enough. And the person who has enough is, by Seneca's definition, truly wealthy. We have been lied to. We have been sold a definition of wealth that is designed to keep us feeling poor forever. The endless chase for more is a rigged game, and the only winning move is not to play. The path to true wealth is a subtractive one. It is not about adding more to your life, but about having the courage and wisdom to want less. It is the internal art of curating your desires. You have a choice. You can continue to be the person who craves more, and in doing so, sentence yourself to a life of poverty, regardless of your income. Or you can choose to cultivate few wants and become the richest person in any room you walk into. Remember Seneca's two inseparable truths, the foundation of a Stoic economy. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor. And wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. Stop chasing possessions. Start cultivating contentment. That's real wealth. Thank you for joining us at the Inner Citadel. If this helped you feel a little richer today, hit that like button and subscribe for more tools to build a life of true abundance. We'll see you next time.